Welcome back to another week of resources. So today we are covering 8 resources from my newsletter, and I send those out every single week to my subscribers so that they can live a long, healthy, happy, pain-free life. It's a great way of just keeping up to date with the latest and greatest in the health space. I'm all about making sure that my viewers and that my subscribers are well looked after. So let's kick things off with resource number 1, which was the truth about sugar. It was a functional patterns video by Mike Mersolio, covering the intricacies of sugar and how sugar is misinterpreted and how sugar is good for stress regulation, how it's good for your metabolism, and how it's good for your thyroid health. Now, one thing I will stress about Mike's video here is that A, it's 48 minutes long, and B, it covers why carbs are necessary. Why do you need carbs in your diet? The misconception of what sugar is, primarily to do with the terminology and the word sugar itself. Words in our lives make a big difference in our understanding, right? So the tyranny of words is something he refers to. If you've got a misunderstanding of what sugar is, or you don't quite grasp what sugar is, then you're not going to know how to use it to your benefit. So understanding what sugar is, why it's needed in the body, is therefore really important when it comes to maintaining your diet, because how you need to consider sugar and carbohydrates as an active form of a macronutrient in your diet. For an example, I've got a food chart. I send out my food chart to my clients. It's on screen at the moment, and you'll understand that there are carbohydrates that you can eat that have a lower stress response, let's say, or insulin response than, say, eating, I don't know, a Snickers bar or something like that. So understanding what sugar is and how it impacts your diet and how it regulates your insulin and your sugar and your blood sugar is all very, very important stuff. If you don't understand it, you're not going to be able to use it properly, and if you can't use it properly, then you're going to have issues with it. Cutting sugar out of your diet completely is not sustainable, but managing it and understanding it is the way forward. So that video is really insightful if you've got an hour to spare, but understand, don't demonize sugar just because you don't understand it. Understand what sugar is and then take it from there. Resource number 2 was your brain and your muscles. And this is actually an Instagram video that I did a little while back about how you can think better thoughts when you get your body in the right structure. So an example is, if your body is struggling with pain, it's going to be really difficult for you to focus throughout the day. So if I'm sitting here and I'm in chronic pain in my leg, how is that affecting how my thoughts are oriented? Also, how is that affecting my behavioral response when it comes to how I sit? Am I going to make adaptations? When you start to orient your thoughts better, you improve your mechanics. When you start to orient your mechanics better, you improve your thoughts. And then your diet becomes better and better as well, because you're more incentivized to actually keep a good diet going, okay? Those links will all be in the description for you, so don't be scared to just click on them and watch them. Kicking things off with resource number 3, The Big Picture by Tony Horton. This was a book that I bought initially because I wanted to understand how to talk to my clients better. Like, what is the best way for me to communicate with my clients so that they get the better results or the best results? What I thought was really interesting about Tony's sort of philosophy was that he had 10 key points to stick to. And Tony is such an optimist, it's unbelievable. He's so happy and exciting. He just had this sense of like encouragement and optimism. And I'm not saying that you should be all happy and go lucky and whatever, but I am saying that that goes a long way for someone to feel like valued and inspired. At the same time, with his book and with all self-help books, understand that not all self-help books work, and not everything in all self-help books works. What you're looking for is the golden nuggets, okay, or becoming a Golconda when you are reading. And Ralph Waldo Emerson used to say there were 4 types of readers, and the one who could take the information and understand it and extract the most relevant bits of information, the better they're going to be, right? I really apologize if you can hear flies, because we're on a farm and they're flies because flies live on farms. It's not a fly farm. That would be weird. I don't even know if those exist. Do fly farms exist? That was resource 3. Resource 4, Tensegrity. This video by Tom Myers is very, very good. It kind of like, for anyone to understand how the body works, and particularly for anyone to really understand how functional patterns works, they must watch this video, because it really explains everything. A lot of people think about their bones and their body like the bricks of a house. You know, you have your bricks laid on top of each other and cement in between. And actually, it's not like that at all. Your body is like having sticks floating in jelly. And those sticks move based on how the jelly responds and moves as well, based on your thoughts and how your brain and your body is wired. So it's all connected, firstly, that's the first part. And secondly, if you've got a kink in your slinky, it's going to affect how the slinky goes down the stairs. You've all seen that clip from Jim Carrey when he's going down the thing and it's like, he's like, yeah, and he gets to the last step and it doesn't work. If he had a kink in his slinky, the slinky would never have gotten that far, firstly. And secondly, I challenge you to get your slinky out. That sounds terrible as well. And put it like on the floor and make it go down some stairs. And if it's got a kink in it, or if you put it at the wrong angle, it ain't gonna work. And that's how your body works. If you've got a kink in your body, if you've got something wrong with your body, if there's something you don't even know is wrong with your body, it could result in pain in other areas of your body. So it's really important to think about that. And what Tom says in his video here is that where you think it is, it ain't. All right, that's the one thing he says. Where you think it is, it ain't. And understand your body is an integrated web of amazing things. So don't just treat it as, oh, I've got lower back pain, so my lower back is the problem. Okay, it could be something else. At the same time, it wouldn't help to address the lower back. Resource 5, proof that you can achieve more than you think. And this was kind of like a bonus one from me. It's the first chapter of my book. I'm writing a book about my life and my story and my journey into fitness and health. I wrote that blog post as like an introduction so that people could really kind of understand where I'm coming from. I hope you find it a good read. And if you do read it, please just pop a comment down below underneath it. It's like probably what, 3 or 4 minute read, and you get to see a picture of me really fat without a shirt on, so go and check that out. Resource number 6 was stop trying to deep squat, and this was a video that I put out there on the Instagrams to show people that deep squatting is not really the be all and end all when it comes to mobility. I see a lot of fitness influencers on Instagram promoting that you need to get down into a deep squat, that you need to drop down and open up the hips. I used to promote opening up the hips. That was my thing. Like, I was like, you need to open up the hips. And I could deep squat all day long. I could sit in that deep squat. And it didn't produce anything good for me. When I got chronic pelvic pain syndrome and I got really badly hurt, I ended up going into a deep squat with a bar on my chest. And instead of dropping the bar because I was like, it was too heavy, the weight was too much, I just tried to push through it out of the deep squat. Is that when you do a deep squat, for a large majority of people, they cannot maintain their structure properly. They have a disconnected posterior chain, their rib cage collapses, and they may or may not get quite a lot of pressure built up in the pelvic floor, and that gets disrupted because of the compression of the rib cage. So understand that just dropping into a deep squat, yeah, okay, it may make the hips feel good for a certain period of time, and it may relieve the lower back for some people out there with lower back pain, because you're essentially taking your back from there to there. It's not going to be helpful for you in the long term. And more importantly, you can't just say, oh, everyone needs to deep squat. That's just really, really bad advice. If, just so you're aware, I'd rather say don't deep squat, get an assessment by someone, and then look at deep squatting later on. The 7th resource on our list is stop trying to touch your toes, okay? And again, this kind of circles back to what I was just saying before. There are a lot of people who will just assume that being able to touch your toes is a really good thing. And I don't think it is. In fact, I would say it helps to create the the wrong kind of stretch for a lot of people. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that if you got up right now and you tried to stretch your hamstrings out by bending over and trying to touch your toes, a lot of you would probably find that your hamstrings don't stretch as much as the backs of your knees stretch, or you might end up with banana knees as a result. Okay, and this is something that I see quite a lot of. When you're starting to use it as your main source of stretch for your hamstrings, you've got to realize that your hamstrings only stretch when they are being told to stretch in gait. That is the best way for your hamstrings to know how to stretch. For you to then go and stretch them passively, should we say, by hanging down to the ground, you're telling those muscles to behave that way as a default, right? The more you train your hamstrings to behave in that stretch, where you're just bending over and blindly touching your toes, the more disconnected you become with them. You have to think that your hamstrings stretch because your quads activate. If you're not activating your quads to contract, you won't get length out of your hamstrings. So you've got to think that there's reciprocation. Muscles work together, like we said with the tensegrity, to produce movement. They don't work in isolation. And to train in isolation is a bad thing to do if you're looking to be optimal and healthy in the future. Resource 8, really interesting one here from a lovely lady. She was actually interviewed by Naudi Aguilar on Functional Patterns podcast. Carrie B. Wellness. Carrie's a wellness coach, and she is all about the electrical signals and how we're being bombarded by them. There's loads of little electromagnetic fields that are generated by all the technology that we use. And what Carrie's approach is how can you reduce the amount of electromagnetic fields that you're exposed to so that you can optimize your health and live a healthier life. These sorts of things, right, these are like biohacking principles, is to have marginal gains. Now, the amount of exposure that we've had through, we're basically like in a microwave. That's the way you got to think of it. Human beings are just being cooked by all the Wi-Fi signals and by all the microwave signals that are around. It's the same as when you're eating or surrounded by chemicals. Your body absorbs things. Like your skin is a massive organ, and it absorbs sunlight, it absorbs moisture, it absorbs what you rub into it during the day. And if what you're constantly feeding your body is toxic, then your body's going to respond to that negatively. And that might be cancer, it might be problems with your heart, it might be all sorts of crazy things. I don't mean to scare you, but it is actually quite scary when you look at it. And what you've got to try and think about is, how can I minimize my risk? And that's what Carrie is all about. She's like, look, what things can you do throughout the day, like having a plant in your room, having more exposure to sunlight, getting out in the sunlight, wearing less sunglasses. The more you wear your sunglasses, the more you're training your eyes not to respond positively to light. The way in which you view your monitors at night. Can you get some blue blocking glasses? All of these small things add up to really, really big things, right? Think about it like saving. It's a little bit like that with your health in many ways. It's the small things that you do that make the biggest difference rather than the big things, okay? If you're just starting out and you're not sure about any of this and you're like, what's Brendan smoking? I just want you to think, right, forget all the complicated stuff of incremental gains. Focus on the bigger things that you can control, like your diet and your movement and trying to get your thoughts aligned. And then when you've got control of those elements of your life, start to branch out into these other areas. I see a lot of coaches out there trying to explain to people the intricacies of biohacking yourself into better health. And what these biohackers and health wellness coaches don't realize is that actually the average person is so far removed from thinking like that, they have to start somewhere. So start by improving what's on your plate, start by improving how you move, and then start to look at the other areas of your life, such as electromagnetic fields and exposure. So that's a way of me saying, don't get overwhelmed. Lastly, it's Instagram heavy week. I appreciate that. This was a resource shared by Elliot Hulse, who, if you know me, you know that I really like Elliot's stuff. I think he's such a legend. He's been through such a change in his coaching structure. I've been mentored by Elliot for the last couple of years now in his King's Transformation program, which was just phenomenal. But anyway, enough about that. 3 foods that men should never eat, and I would extend that to women as well. Stay away from seed oils, like just stop eating seed oils and avoid how much plastic that you eat out of or consume.
3 foods men should never eat, and the 3rd one will blow your mind. Number 1, seed oil. Heart disease and skin cancer have been on the rise since we've been eating more seed oils and hydrogenated oils in our diets. Your body can't tell the difference between a fake oil and a real oil. Seed oils are actually more like plastic than real foods. Your body will use that fake oil to create skin cells. When the sun hits your skin and it fries that plastic, that's why you get skin cancer. Number 2, vegan meats. Vegan meats and other fake meats have a long list of ingredients that your body doesn't recognize. Not only is it disgusting, it's toxic. Number 3, plastic. According to a CNN report, the average person globally eats about 5 grams of plastic every week, equivalent to a whole credit card. Most of the plastics that people are getting in their diet are coming from plastic water bottles and things like toothpaste.
Those resources are all there for you to go away and have a look at. Hopefully they've been helpful for you today. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you in the comment section below, or just send me an email, brendan@rawmotionfitness.com, and I'll get back to you there. Have a great day, stay strong, keep moving. I'll catch you soon.